And hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica. We are going to do our live Q&A. We're going to be answering questions about the single arm club program. Let's talk about all the things we need to talk about. First, we have seminars coming up in October. First 3 weekends of October, there's a dedicated kettlebell seminar, a dedicated club seminar, and there we go, just checking the chat, and a staff seminar. We are starting the instructor training program now. We have 7 candidates who are already doing all of the work for instructor candidacy. There are physical requirements to each instructor test. Oh, wait, here we go. Am I doing it wrong? I wasn't doing it wrong. There will be, can somebody tell me if the sound is working? I don't know. I don't see anybody in the chat yet. Instructor candidacy coming up. The most important one is club. Club will have a bunch of levels in it for instructors. In order to qualify to be a heavy club coach, you have to be able to do something that everybody should be able to do anyway, which is 100 mils left hand, right hand, and then 100 reverse mils left hand, right hand with a 15-pound club for men without stopping or setting the weight down. Total time should be under 16 minutes. Pretty simple. And then the weight requirement will go up. Level 2 will be 20 pounds. Level 3 will be 25 pounds. You have to go through all the levels. You can't just skip to level 3 or anything like that. And there are a shield cast requirement for that as well. We are going to publish that later this week. And then we have kettlebell certification stuff coming up as well. 24K clean and press is what everybody should be able to do. There was an error in the PDF for single arm club. Everybody should, if you are not injured and you are a generally healthy man, you should start around 15 pounds. The Adex is off of that a little bit. I think it's 13.5 and 16 because the Wildman handle weighs 6 pounds. So it's a pound off. So if you're running single arm club, you should start on the lighter side if you can, because you need to practice more technique. The goal is to get people to do single arm club with at least 7 weights. 3 weights is 3 weights is what everybody should do. If you do 3 weights, you will definitely learn what you need to learn from it. 7 weights is what I really want people to do. That becomes very easy with the Adex Mason Club system. And that means men are shooting to get to 30 pounds to complete the entire program with a 30-pound club. Ladies, depending on frame size, it's somewhere in the range of 60 to 70% of that number. And everybody should be able to do that. That's just a basic human thing. What do we need to talk about, Ryan? Upcoming for instructor candidates, we will be doing an extra day after seminars only for instructor candidates, only for people who are working on their coaching skills. They will be doing an extra day after the seminars, after they do their qualification, so that we can work on them one-on-one to make sure their coaching technique is good. How they talk, they have to be able to explain how to do program design. They have to be able to put it on a board. They have to be able to design ABC programs, and they have to be able to give timelines for everything that they should know how to do. It's the same thing that every instructor should know how to do. Ironically, it's not a part of almost any personal training qualification. Program design is something that's not very well taught or taken care of. Okay, we have some people in the chat. We have some people doing neck mobility, excellent, and they are feeling good results. That is the whole point. Neck mobility is something that I do a lot. If you've ever been hit, fallen off of horses, crashed dirt bikes, you know that this thing gets really, really messed up. And so 4 minutes of neck mobility every day is one of the better things that you can do just in general to improve your life. When you think about training, think about neck, shoulders, hips, and then spine for the most part. I don't really do a lot of the other stuff. If you're working on those big core things, then your whole life generally gets better. If your neck moves better, everything moves better. Here's a question from Nilda Aguila. Protocol question. Why are reverse ladders used for clean and press and not for snatches? Clean and press tends to be it's treated as strength training for the most part. So clean and press is different than clean and jerk. Clean and press is where everybody starts because most people can't lock out their legs and straighten out their arms and straighten out their legs. So we always start at clean and press, but we treat it as strength training. We are not treating snatches as strength training. We are teaching snatches as endurance training. So two different training protocols entirely for two different goals and two different desired outcomes. When it comes to clean and press, we're building up to those reverse ladders. Some people do pyramids. I don't think pyramids are good. They take twice as long and they burn you out too fast. So I like reverse ladders. Think doing a number first in the strength training zone, 3 to 5, and then making it easier every set without putting the weight down. So 3 left, 3 right, 2 left, 2 right, 1 left, 1 right. You're still treating it generally as strength training. You're keeping in the strength training numbers. Whereas for something like snatches, our goal is to get up into not putting the weight down for 10 minutes. Two totally different concepts. So reverse ladders for clean and press, because it's strength training, an entirely different series of ideas for snatches, because entirely different thing. One is just pure structure, something everybody should do. Everybody should be doing clean and press no matter what. Sorry, guys, I got shop dust in my face. Everybody should start at clean and press. Men, you should get to 32K across the board. That is your goal. If you're not at 32K yet, then keep working on your clean and press. Snatches, usually you can work up to 32K, but 32K snatches for 10 minutes is like world class. For the most part, we train above what we need. So you're going to train your snatches in some type of volume cycle protocol and get above the target weight. I think that the target weight is the Secret Service snatch test, and that should be 24 kilogram, 200 reps in 10 minutes, nonstop, without putting the weight down. Do as many hand changes as you want, which is different than competition, where competition, the goal is one hand change inside of 10 minutes. So you would be doing at least 100 in a set if you're doing competition style. If you're doing what I like to think of as a layman or workman style, then the goal is just to get to 10 minutes without putting the weight down, and focus more on power. I hope I answered that question. I ramble on about some of these things when you get me talking about strength training versus endurance training and why things are the way they are. I'll talk about that forever. Do I have any advice for ribs that are stuck and refuse to be driven down? That sounds like core contraction. That sounds like muscles. This sounds like things are locked up. So mobility training, everything in mobility training should go in there. Your basics of body weight training. I love everything in body weight training to be based on the hip drop series. Sit through hip leads to sit through leg. That is a core movement that is not often trained in the gym. But when you do that, you expand and contract and twist the rib cage. That combined with heavy club swinging, single arm or two hand should eventually mobilize your ribs. Question is, how long have your ribs not been moving from lack of movement? The reason we pick a lot of the stuff that we pick is because it shows up over and over and over again in history. Heavy club swinging shows up over and over and over again in history. When you practice two-hand heavy club and single arm heavy club, you are essentially doing all of the core movements of Chinese medicine or the Chinese internal martial arts. So you're doing lung movement, kidney movement, fire brace movement. All these different movements are describing expansion and contraction of the rib cage. So if your core won't go down, you need to figure out how to force it to go down. That means preparatory drills. That means mobility drills. That means learning to do proper get up programs so that your core is forced to fire, and then working on your club stuff, because then your rib should eventually move. You should get core contraction. It should be impossible to fail. If you start with a lightweight and you go to a heavyweight, if you get to a heavyweight, eventually your core has to fire. There's no way out of that. Got a face full of shop dust here. Sorry, guys. Club question. When doing circles, should the back leg feel like I'm pushing my knee forward with my VMO and my glute is keeping that hip back by pushing back? Yes. So when you are doing circles, your feet are pointed straight ahead, but one knee is translating forward as the hips rotate. Your hips are pointed straight ahead. When you rotate, ankles, knees, and hips will get your hips to move about 45 degrees, and then the spine should rotate another 45 degrees for you to achieve 90 degrees from shoulders to toes. So in order to accomplish that task, when your hips rotate 45 degrees and your heels stay down, the rear leg, if you're doing inside circles, your rear leg VMO does load and drive forward. This is one of the reasons it's heavy club swinging is so good for people who've been injured. The single arm club program is the program I use to get back to walking. Old story, 2008, I was training with the circus. I was doing a suicide dive on rope, cord lisse, which is 25, 30-foot rope, and it's an unsecured drop. When I did that drop, I missed it because I was not doing a proper volume cycle. I was training to failure. Don't train to failure when your life is actually on the line. It's a terrible idea. You can only train to failure in a gym in controlled environments. Don't train to failure 30 feet in the air. I learned that the really stupid way and dislocated my leg. LCL totally gone, PCL totally gone. Everything, just knee completely trashed. Dislocated knee went, sideways. LCL completely gone. And the single arm club program is how I got back to like really walking. So 3 surgeries, years and years of physical therapy. Physical therapy could never really get me back to walking. There's not enough ankle load or learning opportunities in physical therapy. You're doing 3 sets of 10 of a couple of exercises, whereas in the real world, everything is strength endurance. Everything has to run nearly infinitely. When you learn single arm club, what happens is that I'm super interested in, how do I demonstrate this? In your ankle, can't remember what this little joint is called, but essentially it freezes when you don't walk for a long time, and then your ankle doesn't move. And most people never get that movement back, and it influences the way that they walk forever. Single arm club training in particular makes you move that piece of your ankle hundreds of times per workout. It makes the arch of your foot fire hundreds of times. If you don't walk for a long time, then your foot completely atrophies, your leg atrophies, the muscles around your knee atrophy. By doing single arm club, every time you swing and do a circle, your foot grabs the ground, your arch strengthens. This only works if you point your feet straight ahead. This does not work if your feet are turned out or turned out unequally. And every time you rotate your hips, you load your VMO. So in a 100 reps on each side for 3 exercises workout, you're getting 600 VMO contractions. You do that twice a week and you run through 7 weights, you end up with thousands and thousands and thousands of opportunities for your feet to work properly, for your ankles to move properly, and for your VMO to fire over and over and over again. Training should solve a bunch of issues all at one time. Training is not just about looking good. I love 1970s bodybuilders. I used to love that stuff. It's so cool. But if you're super, super injured, super injured, you'd rather spend your time making sure that you can walk as opposed to just spending your time making sure that you look good. And that means you have to optimize your training. You have to get 600 VMO fires per workout. You have to make your ankle and your foot fire 600 times per workout. You have to start with lightweight. You have to go to a heavyweight, and you have to do it forever. I myself am back doing the single arm club program because I don't know if anybody noticed, but I started to limp in a bunch of videos because I was just overworking. I was way overworking and way overtraining, which is something trainers do. We test all of our own programs. So I'm stacking up like 5 programs at once. And I started to limp from working with just these monster clubs back here, the Great Lakes Gira clubs. What I realized is I need to slow down my volume cycles with the giant heavy club because my VMO was being overtaxed in my bad leg, and that was causing me to limp. So I have taken out the heavy club for now. You always go up and then you go down and you roll your intensity in your training forever. And I've gone back to doing the single arm club program specifically to make sure that I'm not cheating towards my good side. When you have a super bad leg, your body forever tries to shift to its good side. If I do start to shift and then you're lifting heavier and heavier weights, your body starts to shift a little bit more. I've gone back to doing the single arm club program to force my body back to center, to get my spine back in the center, and to make sure my bad leg VMO and ankle are firing properly. And then we will go back to the Great Lakes Gira Wildman Monster Clubs. I do want to get up to 56K shield cast on that, which for 10 sets of 10, which is kind of a stupid and insane goal. That shop dust out of my face. Sorry. Which is a stupid and insane goal. But that's because these exist now. These clubs exist, and they did not exist when I was younger in training. The heaviest club that there was 45. Now Adex goes up to 50, which I consider to be a perfect weight because it is the weight of a bag of grain. You should be able to move 50 pounds, and you should be able to move it nearly infinitely in every direction. But then we'll get back to this. But go back and forth to single arm club all the time to make your VMOs fire better. Your VMO should be translating forward. That is correct. What's the difference between the programs you sell on your site and the strong and fit programs? All kinds of stuff. The strong and fit programs, I was not extraordinarily pleased with the editing on that at all. That was the first program I ever made, and I was not overly enthused with the final product on editing. So my programs that I write are 4 times bigger than the one on strong and fit, and the camera work is a million times better and the editing's a million times better. I am an engineer, so I want problems to be very clearly solved, and I want things to be, the information to be put out a very specific way. So the difference between the programs on strong and fit, I wasn't in charge of the edit on that. I didn't have final say on how that was done. That was the first program I did. Somebody asked me, my buddy Will Safford of Order in Progress suggested that I do that. We shot it all in one day. It's just not up to what I want it to be. It's good. The writing itself, the program itself is very good, but I think that I want my presentation to be much, much, much better. So the programs on my website are, well, they're probably really, really, really overdone. A, they're all huge. B, they're super overdone. Single arm club is a 3.5-year program if you do it with 7 weights at twice a week. I try not to write 6-week programs. I try to write 3-year programs because that's how athletes really train. You do not get a judo brown belt, or you do not get a judo brown belt in 6 weeks. You get it in 8 years. So I treat everything like martial arts, and I treat everything as a path to mastery. So longer programs, better produced, more clearly articulated. I put a lot of effort into the programs that I sell on my website, and now there are kettlebells, swings, clean and press, Turkish get up. In edit right now is the squat program and the snatch program. The snatch program has 2 paths. We have the old path and we have the new path because equipment changes, training changes. We have 2-hand heavy club, which is massive. So the strong and fit program is 3 levels, 5 exercises, 15 moves. Basis of strength is 56 moves. It's the big version of all of that. It's huge. It's more like Olympic lifting. It's not just the basics. It's more like Olympic lifting where we're doing all the breakdown drills to make you good enough at movement to eventually survive going up to these massive monster clubs over here. Single arm club program is huge. We also shot the double heavy club program, which is in edit. I have no idea when we're going to get these things out, but I know we're going to have another product release September 1st. I think that's going to be the AB program is going to be that one. That program is awesome. It's 7 months. And then there's going to be 5 versions of it. Once again, I made another 3.5-year program where no workout day is the same in 3.5 years. So it'll be a core training program with no equipment, able to be done anywhere, originally designed for stunt guys to train inside their trailer on the edge of set. They don't have equipment. If you've ever seen a stunt guy's trailer, the actors get the whole trailer. Stunt guys, they have like 3 little compartments in the same trailer. And so they basically have a couch and it's about the space of a yoga mat. So we designed that whole program for stunt guys so that they can just do a core program before they go to hair and makeup. Side effect is everybody else can do it too. That one's going to be awesome. But that's, once again, it's super, super overdone. Like a normal ab core training program is like 6 weeks. I can't do that. I wrote a 3.5-year program instead. Because then it's fun. You're never bored. Heavy club kettlebells are the best. I agree. Heavy kettlebells and clubs are the most economical and they do the most things. I like to train in fields, so heavy clubs and kettlebells are perfect for me. Here's a question about editing on YouTube videos. How do we manage to film at so many locations for every video? So I worked in movies for 5 years, and I worked in the movie industry for years before that, before I became a traveling with actors trainer. What we have giant libraries, editing libraries, where whenever we go someplace, we shoot a ton of content for like core moves. We'll shoot every move from 2-handed club, single arm club, and then a bunch of kettlebell stuff in a location and then move. So you'll see tons of really cool locations. There are Skara Brae is in a bunch of videos, which is in the Orkney Islands, Thailand videos, London. Every time I go someplace cool, I shoot something. And then it makes it more fun to watch if it jumps all over the world. And so we have a giant editing library on how we assemble these things because videos should be informative. They should have a clear and concise point. They should contain useful information, and they should also be fun to watch. So we try to do that. We don't go to every one of those locations every time we do a video. We block shoot like you do in a movie. So we shoot blocks of stuff and giant ideas, and we'll shoot videos months ahead of time now. In the beginning, I shot a video, edited it, and put it up every single day. Now we're trying to do giant coaching themes. So the coaching theme, we have a coaching theme for the year, and then we're trying to get through a specific idea and lay the videos out in a logical way, like it's a TV series with a beginning, middle, and an end, building up towards a big bad at the end. This is a question about mild scoliosis. You have all your normal therapy stuff that you need to do. It's single arm club. drags the spine back to the center and rotates it every joint. Think of it like Chinese internal martial arts. There are 5 core movements, the way that the ribs are supposed to move. And if you do single arm club, you start with a lightweight, you run through the program, you go to a heavyweight. Usually it helps people's scoliosis out, but that depends on what your version of scoliosis is. Most people with mild scoliosis, which means a mild curve in the spine, just by doing single arm heavy club for a couple of years will drag their body back to center. If you do two-handed club twice a week and single arm club twice a week, usually that makes it much, much, much better than almost anything else I've ever seen work. I've never seen anything else work except Kung Fu and club swinging for correction of scoliosis. Any recommendations on a 6-foot poly bow staff? Yes, we have a giant box of them that just showed up over here. Martial Arts Mart, the ones that we use in the London seminars. We have like 20 in London that we just have in storage over there. They're the 1-inch ones. They come in 4 foot, 5 foot, and 6 foot. I like the 6-foot ones because you can actually cut them to your own eyebrow height. I think it's Martial Arts Mart. Ryan, will you look on the side of that box and tell me what company that came from? I think it's Martial Arts Mart. Yeah, the staff box right there. I think it's on the shit should be on the shipping label or something right there. Sorry, we'll get you that answer. We'll come back to that. Injury question. Partially torn labrum and rotator cuff. Currently doing TOI training for overweight and deconditioned individuals, kettlebell training, club training, and Indian club. Any other suggestions and any specific things to avoid? Torn labrum. Ryan, labrum is the inside of the hip, right? Torn labrum? Yeah. ProforceMA.com is where we got the 6-foot bow staffs. Partially torn labrum. I believe my friend just had this. A stunt girl had her labrum inside the hip joint. That basically means the cartilage and the connective tissue keeping the bone inside the hip joint get torn. The stunt girl, my stunt friend, also circus performer, had it torn, and that meant that it was inhibiting how her hip moved. She actually had to have a full hip replacement. Don't do stunts. They're horrible on your body. I tell everybody single arm club. Rotator cuff, every move in single arm club is shoulder therapy. If you have rotator cuff issues and you are in recovery, that just means you have to start with a light weight. Doesn't mean you don't train. It means you go down to a really light weight. That's why I work with Adex, because clubs used to be fixed weights, 10, 15, 20. Didn't really work out. If you have an injured shoulder and an injured hip, you can go down to just a handle, 4.5 pounds. We have an injured ballerina coming in here probably in 30 minutes to an hour to do training, and professional ballerina using just a handle. Broken leg, once again, stunts. Hip issues, body shifted to one side from standing on one leg for 9 weeks. So we got to push her back to the center. Side effect is she also had a shoulder injury from ballet from years ago. So go down to the lightest Adex you can and start running the single arm club program, and then just work your way up gently. Of course, after you've done all your therapy. But there's a reason I tell everybody to do single arm club, and I tell everybody to do at least 7 weights. Start with a weight lighter than you think and do it. It's because it solves so many issues. It's crazy. If you have shoulder issues, it'll solve them. If you have lower back issues, usually it solves them just by 600 core contractions. Usually if you have ankle, knee, or hip injuries, it solves them as long as you point your feet straight ahead. If you don't point your feet straight ahead, it doesn't solve them. But it's a shotgun thing that fixes a bunch of stuff. That's why heavy clubs have been in every culture in human history. That's why they show up on walls in the British Museum. That's why the king carried a mace on the walls in the British Museum. If you go to the section next to the Rosetta Stone, clubs, you see clubs and staffs in that whole room. We went in there last time we were in London, and I think we took 50 pictures of just clubs and staffs and maces, and just in the Rosetta Stone ancient Egypt / Mesopotamia exhibit. That's not even getting to the other wings. Yeah, because it does stuff. It fixes things on accident. There's a reason Kung Fu and doing staff has been historically a way that people fix themselves. Thoughts on running TOI to 16K instead of 12K? TOI is training for overweight and deconditioned individuals. It contains a section of training with presses, with deadlifts, and with squats. I think you can run TOI all the way up to whatever you want to run it to. 16K is fine. I normally have people run it up to at least 12. The goal is to get people to at least 12, and then they can jump to intro to kettlebell. Intro to kettlebell is all about, it's essentially 25 breakdown drills where we're teaching people to get it up properly to a rack position and teach them the basics of swings in a neurological loading format so that when they get to the swing program, it doesn't kill them, or the clean and press program. Most people don't think kettlebells don't work because they never learn how to hold it or catch it properly. So TOI, core things, rebuilding, but you can take that as high as you want. You could take it up to 24K if you wanted, because it's the basics of every program. Doesn't matter if you're in the NFL or you're a track athlete or you're a Kung Fu athlete. You're always doing some version of a squat, some version of a deadlift, and you should be doing some version of a press. That is in training for overweight and deconditioned individuals. Push it all the way as high as you want to until you feel comfortable. You're going to keep getting benefit out of it as it gets heavier. There's no way to not get benefit if you keep adding 1 kilogram and running the program over again. The goal, I like to have people over prepare so that they are actually going down in weight slightly when they jump programs. So if you went up to 16 kilograms, and then when you went to intro to kettlebell training, you went back down to 12, it increases your likelihood of success because now you're using a light weight when you're learning new skills. This is the thing that we're always doing. We're always waiving our intensity, both physically and neurologically. So anytime you're jumping to learn a new skill, you go to a weight much lighter than you need because it makes it really easy to learn. I like to over prepare for absolutely everything. One of my favorite quotes that I learned at university: is it not a joy to learn and in time demonstrate what you have learned? Everything should be about learning and learning physical skills, learning how and why to do things over and over and over again. And we just got a message from our ballerina. She will be late, of course. How old am I? I am in my mid 40s. Yeah, I'm in my mid 40s. A lot of miles on this body. I am beyond the lifespan of my joint structure, especially in my surgical knee. I am 5 years beyond what the knee was supposed to last, even with surgery. And that's only because of really good training, super thought out, really nerdy training. But I have to waive my intensity in order to do that. But mid 40s, I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I'm trying to get back into distance cycling. I went to look at bikes the other day because all my bikes got stolen in Los Angeles. Yeah. Never give up, never surrender. What's that? Is that Galaxy Quest? I think that's Galaxy Quest. Yeah. Son of Nehemiah had a micro discectomy 1 week ago, L5S1. So they go in and they take off a little piece of disc that has come out, been compressed and bulged out from the sides of the joint. He's asking if you, I have used kettlebell and club for rehab. What would you do if you had to recover from back surgery? If you have to recover from anything, I would start with Indian clubs. There's an Indian club section, which is designed for super, super injured people in the training for overweight and deconditioned program. It starts with 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, light club, 1 pound to 1.25 pound club. And then if you're recovering from anything, it starts at 4 minutes. The next week, it goes to 6 minutes, and then it goes to 8 minutes. And it's 5 days a week for 4 minutes, 5 days a week for 6, 5 days a week for 8, and it builds up to 20 minutes. Then it jumps to double club, and you add up another 10 minutes. Anybody who's recovering from any type of injury, I put them back on Indian club, because once again, it's a high neurological load and a high rep activity. So when you are injured, your body shuts down systems. It cuts out movements in order to survive. It shifts the load someplace else in order to keep moving. So when I ripped my leg in half, I had to stand on one leg. My body adapted and it moved. One leg got really strong. One side of my spine got visibly bigger. When you recover, you have to put it back. You can't just go out and start training for an hour a day. You have to start with just small amounts of movement. Indian club, you could be getting anywhere between 20 to 40 reps, depending on the exercise, inside of a minute. So in 4 minutes, you could get 160 opportunities to shift your weight. When we build up towards 20 minutes, we're trying to get to minimum 30 movements per minute. So we're trying to get you to a minimum of 600 movement opportunities to shift your weight, rotate things, and load stuff in your core. So the way that you should recover from back surgery is the same way you should recover from almost anything. It is neurological loading, movement pattern, and club swinging. Indian club is the easiest way to do it. I couldn't find a good Indian club program that I liked because they all just were crazy, way too fast. None of them were 4 minutes and then go to 6 minutes and then build up in complexity over time. It was all just like, do the fanciest thing you can possibly think of for an undetermined amount of time. I didn't like that. So I wrote these other type of club training programs that are designed to help people recover, because I've been super injured. I work with super injured people, usually super injured professional athletes of some type, stunt people, ballerinas, circus performers, that kind of stuff. And the goal is to get them back to where they were. And that means you have to have the correct number of learning opportunities to learn to do things correctly again. I don't hear anybody else talk about this. It's called neurological load. I call it neurological load. I apply it to fighting as well, to movement martial arts. But I got this idea from learning opportunities from working with horses and autistic kids when I was young. They have to have so many opportunities to try it in order to come to the correct conclusion, or the better conclusion, not the correct conclusion, the better conclusion. Swing light clubs if you have a back injury. We have a whole new section being edited. I think it'll be out September 1st. That's going to go into intro to kettlebell. People wanted an Indian club section in intro to kettlebell. We shot it. It's in edit right now. It's not a hard edit, so it should be out. But use any of those programs to recover. I'm also writing a staff program specifically designed for recovery as well. We just haven't shot that one yet, but that's a cool one. We're using that one. We're testing it on the stunt ballerina who is injured. Do you have any advice for applying kettlebell cues and principles to yoga? I have a million bits of advice for that. I would highly recommend, if you do yoga, you should definitely kettlebell. The version of yoga that we have is not the complete yoga. We got this weird version from the Beatles in like the 60s and the 70s in the Western world, but we did not get all the other pieces. Heavy club swinging is in yoga. Heavy club swinging is a part of yoga. Kettlebell swinging, Chinese stone padlock is in versions of yoga as well. So yoga, versions of yoga, and warrior yoga, where you swung heavy clubs, existed in India. It traveled across the mountains into China. That's where Kung Fu came from. Traveling, a person was traveling across the mountains, as they call it, Bodhidharma, and he stopped at what became the Shaolin Temple, and he found a bunch of monks who were too out of shape in order to reach enlightenment because they could not meditate because their bodies were so deconditioned from just sitting down. They sat down and they meditated, but their body was deconditioned. Therefore, they couldn't focus and they couldn't endure. So he introduced a bunch of exercises, the muscle tendon change classic, the original form in Shaolin. And then he introduced weapons training. Weapons training is heavy club swinging. Chinese golden hammer, the 18 weapons of Shaolin, different length levers swung in infinitely complex ways with infinitely complex movement patterns. And that is all a yogic idea. The yoga idea is yoke the body to yoke the mind to yoke the spirit. Just put in kettlebell training with yoga. If you do kettlebell swings twice a week and do a yoga practice, your yoga will get infinitely better. If you want to talk about specific cues for specific poses, we could talk about that some other time. We could make tons of videos on that. If you want more information on that, that's really, really good, I would go to Summer Huntington of Flow Shala. I've worked with Summer for years. She does a steel mace vinyasa version of yoga where they put the mace back into yoga. Yoga used to have mace and staff and a bunch of other stuff, and they took it out when it came to America, and she's putting it back. And her cueing is absolutely fantastic. Her cueing and her coaching program for cueing are absolutely fantastic. One of the better coaching programs I have ever seen. Programming question. Can you substitute clean and press with Turkish get up? Absolutely. I tell people to go in the kettlebell world. I tell people to Rehab TOI, training for overweight and deconditioned individuals, which is where about 200 million people actually need to start. Then we go to intro to kettlebell, which is how you pick up a kettlebell and don't beat yourself to death. Those are two ideas that I added to the progression of kettlebells. And then you do swings. You make sure you're very, very good at your swings. Usually you repeat a swing program with at least 10 weights. You are never done with a swing program. It just gets more expensive over $32K. And then you go to clean and press. We go to clean and press after swings because we have a deadlift pattern, then we have an overhead press pattern, and we have a getting away to our shoulder pattern. And then Turkish get up is much more complex. Think of it as really having 8 core movements inside of each Turkish get up. So we tend to do it after people have done clean and press, but at a certain point, when people are running programs, if they hit their goal in clean and press, they get to their 32 kilogram clean and press, then yes, replace your clean and press day with a Turkish get up day or Turkish get up master day. Once again, I'm super nerdy. So instead of just doing Turkish get ups, I made a Turkish get up master program, which is a 28-minute program. It's just a bunch of breakdown versions. It's done as time under tension because once again, I found that people could not do Turkish get ups because they didn't have enough learning opportunities to learn their skeleton upright. If you're doing old school, like say hard style or Pavel style, then you would do your Turkish get up before your clean and press. But you're going to go up and down forever. You're going to change back and forth. As long as you're doing your core movements and you're working on it in some way, you're probably doing the right thing. You can dump clean and press at some point. The whole point of the idea of the Tetris of training is that you have all of these programs. By running neurological training programs, you get enough experience to actually do it right, but you are never done with it. You always come back to it. I will be, after we do this live here, I'm going to walk right over here and I'm going to do clean and press program again, but I'm doing it with a new experimental protocol because I have a crazy new weight being developed that I just want to do. It's a circus strongman weight. So we're developing a program for that. But you can replace clean and press at any point with Turkish get up for some time. Some days you'll do Turkish get up for 6 months. You go back to clean and press for 6 months. It goes on like that forever. You're never done. Are 40 kilogram plus snatches necessary? This is a great question. So kettlebells, 16K, 24K, 32K, the original 3 weights was really, really hard on people. I think every man can get to a 32K clean and press. Ladies, once again, we're looking at 70% of that. Most ladies don't have the want to get that strong. So most ladies tend to get up towards 12 to 16 kilograms. They can totally do 20, 24 kilograms, but they tend to opt more for a higher rep strategy and endurance strategy than going up in weight. Snatches, you should get to 32 kilogram snatches because your goal is to be able to do 24 kilogram snatches at the drop of a hat cold for 10 minutes. The way that you get to the goal is 10 minutes of snatches with 24K at any time, right? No warm up, no anything. You should just be able to walk over and do it, right? 20 reps per minute. The way that you get there is by training above that. That means you train at 32K. I used to train way above. I used to train up to, I think I was on 44 kilogram snatches when I hurt my leg. Here was the problem. The heavier it is, the more recovery time you need because it's becoming pure strength adaptation. But now you're doing so much volume. It's very weird about how your body can respond to that. I don't think above 32 kilogram snatches are necessary for normal people. I think a bunch of people will go above 32K for a couple of years, like I did, and then realize that it's keeping you from recovering enough to do the other things you want to do. I think 32K and under is something that you can learn to adapt to very well. But I do see guys doing 40 kilogram snatches, just absolute monster guys. And it will make you a monster. It'll just pack muscle all over your frame. Is it necessary? I don't think so. I think that going to double kettlebell work is more affordable in the long run than 40 kilogram snatches, 40 kilogram plus. I just looked up, I have a 48K and a 44K right behind me here. And I looked up, I only have one 48K and one 44K, but I was like, oh, I'll get another one, do some double swings or something like that. They're $500. So a 40 kilogram kettlebell, I looked it up, was like $400. They're expensive. Do I care about that much at this point in my life? I don't, but I just don't think 40 kilogram snatches are super necessary. I think you'd be better off diverting your attention to double kettlebell work for time. Although life is long, you're probably going to try 40 kilogram snatches at some point. But are they necessary? No. Any plans to release a follow-up to 2-hand heavy club, basis of strength for super heavy clubs? Absolutely. It's already written. I'm just trying to figure out what's survivable. I write all kinds of crazy things, and then I usually test them for a long time. Above 50 pounds, it changes quite a bit, right? 15 to 50 pound range, 15 pounds white belt, 50 pounds brown belt. Above 50 pounds, a lot of stuff changes quite a bit about your technique. You way more knee translation of VMO load, way more prep for a shield cast, way more prep for a shield cast. And because it's becoming pure absolute endpoint strength training, the strategy changes almost entirely. It goes back to being treated more like a heavy snatch program or an Olympic lifting program. There's a lot more. You go back down to core movements, and a lot of the complex stuff, which is meant to develop your brain and over prepare you, goes away. But yes, that program is already written, is being tested now. Here's a question about a post I made on Instagram about anterior pelvic tilt. Anterior pelvic tilt, when people duck, they have a duck butt, super round back. Oftentimes this leads to a lot of belly in the front. Has to do with there's psoas, a muscle that runs from mid spine into front of the hip, kind of in a fan from front to back of the body. That gets very, very tight on people, and it pulls their body out of alignment and it deviates their spine. I put up a post and it just said, so right. Can you grab a so right, Ryan? So that they were right over there. So right and single arm club tend to fix this problem almost immediately. So most people have super tight psoas. You can have it worked on if you go to a good massage therapist. Normal massage therapist will not do it because it's not pleasant. This awesome piece of plastic right here is an absolute godsend. Think of this as two body workers' hands stabbing straight into your psoas. So you get it in place and you lay on it, and it's basically pushing into your abdomen, and you're essentially resting on that thing and you're stretching it by taking a straight line and putting it on a curved surface. It forces it to get longer and it stretches out. That allows people's spine to go back into line. You should do single arm club with it as well. I'm going to hammer on single arm club forever for the sheer fact that it's the only thing that keeps me walking when you get really hurt. When I got really hurt and I stood on one leg for a long time, I had chronic psoas issues from the fall, traumatic injury, followed by compensation, not walking for 3 months, followed by physical therapy. As you swing clubs, they swing laterally. They force you to shift your weight back and forth into your bad leg, into your good leg, but you also rotate. As you rotate, your psoas is getting longer and shorter, longer and shorter. You are correcting the length tension relationship of that muscle inside the body through swinging weights. Combination of this and single arm club tends to fix anterior pelvic tilts super fast. It fixes lower back pain because lower back pain is usually related to that. It's either core not being in line, core not having enough opportunities to fire, core, what do they call it? Sensory motor amnesia, where certain parts of the body adapt to being seated. So they just kind of shut off and they don't really work anymore. That leads to back pain. By introducing swinging weights back and forth, every time you swing, your pelvic floor will fire. Every time you rotate, the length tension relationship of your psoas, it gets longer, it gets shorter, under load, and it contracts. And then when you then afterwards release it by laying on this thing for about 6 minutes, I like to do 3 minutes, 3 minutes, and 3 minutes. I like to do 9 minutes because I've been super, super injured, but that keeps your spine in good alignment by correcting the length tension relationship of the psoas. I hope I answered that question. What are we working on in the shop? Right now, the shop here at Art Asylum, they have the motorcycle chariot out there that they are getting ready for an event. So it's 3 Harley Davidsons pulling basically a war chariot, like a Roman war chariot that was all hand built. So right now, we just have way too much stuff in the shop. So what I'm working on right now is I just went out and bought a ton of giant pallet racking and we're going to custom fit it into the shop and did a giant layout yesterday. Part of the shop has that, but we're going to extend it all the way around the shop so that we can get a lot more stuff up and out of the way. Tools. There's like knife belt grinders just sitting on the floor out there. There's just way too many tools out there. There's an entire box of forging hammers. There are 7 anvils of various sizes and shapes sitting outside the back door here. There's a Cummins 12 valve sitting out there. There's a 6.2 and 2 turbos sitting out there. There's a T400 transmission. We're working on the shop. We're going to do a bunch of organization so that we can get stuff out of the way so that we can actually work on the motorcycle chariot. And then they're also building out the art assistant services ambulance for Burning Man. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Burning Man. It's a giant art festival with really, really, really good art. And Night FX and Badland Outfitters work at Burning Man for art support services. They have a giant. We just rolled in an E350 ambulance with a 7.3 Godzilla in it. 7.3 Ford Godzilla. It's a specific type of diesel engine. But ambulances are really good because maybe it's an E450. I think all ambulances are 450. Really heavy shock system. We have the box on the back. We're going to take everything out of it, or they are, and they're going to fill it with tools where all the old medical equipment used to go, solar panels on the roof, and it will be a mobile art support ambulance. So they go around when people can't figure out their art piece, or it's not going up, or something is broken. They go out there and they fix it. So it'll have welders in it, TIG welders, all kinds of fun stuff. And then they will drive around and basically save art at Burning Man from killing anybody. That's what we're working on in the shop. That's why I'm cleaning out in the shop. The shop is super dirty right now because what was the other project they just did? They just did another project out there. Night Effects and Badland Outfitters just did a build for what was that? Metal Warriors, which is for Path Water and Metal Warriors, which was an art piece that went to Comic-Con. So it's a big van and it was on fire. So it had smoke machines inside and lights. So it looked like it was burning all the time. That's what's in the shop right now. Comic-Con. And there's what else is in the shop? There's an electric bicycle Star Wars land speeder out there that needs to be fixed up because we drove it into a wall. That is what we were working on in the shop. It's cleaning right now. Ab engagement question. Can I hold engagement with flat back pullovers planks, but struggle to keep them engaged when standing? How should I work on this? Currently doing two-handed club program. The two-handed club program is meant to solve this issue. So most people do not have good core engagement in any position. You need to have it standing. You need to have it in half kneeling. You need to have it in full kneeling. You need to have it in flat back get-ups. Every program I do is about some type of core engagement or spinal mobility. So this was a question from Bryant. Bryant, could you tell me what weight you're on? If you're doing basis of strength, if you get up to 50 pounds, it's impossible for it not to work. It's impossible because of the number of movements. That's why it's designed the way it is. It's to force core engagement and to force glute engagement. Oftentimes people cannot engage their core because they have no control over their glutes, which is really the bottom of their core. That is not the way that it's normally taught. Normally, core is taught like from a Pilates perspective. It's a box, but it's taught from a ballet perspective, which is turn out and without glute engagement. Ballerinas do not engage their glutes. They pull up from the ground from the insides of their legs. I teach the kettlebell version, which is glutes everything. Core should be based on glutes. Everybody who does kettlebells or clubs will end up with big muscly glutes. That's why all the statues of Hercules, where he has a giant club, he's always got massive glutes because that's what happens. So we attack core from all the things. We attack it with the two-handed club program. There is a squat, a front-loaded squat, right? There is a front press, circle, lunge pattern, a get up pattern. I'm missing something. I'm missing 3 families right in there, but they're all designed to force you to engage your core in the standing position. But the get up pattern in there, it's the basis of gun get up movement family 7, is there for core ground engagement. If you're not getting great engagement, you have to keep running the program, but then you also might want to throw in some other program 2 days a week, like Bodyweight 101, which is about getting more mobility out of the spine for get-ups. And then Krav 1, there are 4 bodyweight programs in edit right now, Krav 2, Judo 2, etc. So if you're not getting what you want, jump programs for a while. Jump programs, run something else, and then come back. We're designing all of these programs as neurological load. They're all designed to fit together to support standing core structure. Because I don't think that that's being taught at all. And that is the reason 60-70% of the population has persistent back pain, simply because they are not firing their core and they do not have the learning opportunities to learn to fire their core. So Bryant, what weight are you on? There's a real question there. Question. When I was at Adex, what did you think about the Mastodon and the Gladiator? I was curious what you thought about them before making a big investment. I think they're giant chunks of metal. I think that they're awesome. I think that it is solving a problem, right? I have these monster clubs here, but they're all fixed weights. I love Great Lakes Cheer Up monster clubs, but I'm a club guy. I own 50 clubs. The Adex is a way for people who don't have a barn and a trailer and a giant shop to put a bunch of stuff. So Adex, somebody's got to do the math on it to get you from 4.5 pounds all the way up to 80 pounds in 1.25 pound increments is replacing 50 clubs, 60 clubs. It's saving you a ton of space, and it travels. So I have a Mastodon kit in the back of my F350, and I just have it in a Pelican. I think they're 1510 case. They're the carry-on case. So I have a handle in there, all the weights, the oversleeve, and the Mastodon all shoved in there. And they just live in the F350 all the time. They never come out. That way, when you go somewhere, you don't have to drag things around. You just walk out to the back of the truck at a truck stop. You open it up. You're standing on the side of the road in Kansas. You do 5 minutes of shield casts, and then you throw it all back in the box and you keep going. I like the Mastodon. It's mean. It's mean. It's a big chunk of metal. So all clubs move differently because the center of mass is different and the length is different. So I got 2 Mastodon kits when I was at Adex. And so I have one at the farm, one in the truck, and then we're going to get another one out here because I figured out that I don't want to spend money on anything except things that will survive the end of civilization. And the Mastodon will definitely survive the end of civilization. So I really liked them. I thought that they were really cool. I am modifying a handle for it. I'm doing a wire wrap handle for my Mastodon handle, like a sword grip handle. A sword wire wrap. So we have it out in the shop. We were going to do it today, but Badland Outfitters had to drive up to Sacramento to pick up 2 airplanes because he's building airplane trucks where they take airplane fuselages and they drop it on a truck frame with a race car engine in it. But we have all this stuff out there, but I'm going to wrap a handle to make it super monster traction-y for the Mastodon kit. Am I doing anything currently with Hydrocore? It's over here. It's in one of the cabinets. It's in its travel bag. I just haven't had it out. I'm constantly testing new things. I think Hydrocore is a great idea. Hydrocore is an excellent piece of equipment. It is the only piece of useful gym equipment you can take on a plane on carry-on. The only one. You can't take a club carry-on. Don't try it. You don't want to have a kettlebell carry-on, but you can take a Hydrocore carry-on. And Hydrocore, fill it up. I set a 1 minute or a 90-second timer. I do one movement for 90 seconds. I do the opposite for 90 seconds. If you do 10 moves in a row, it's 30 minutes nonstop. Hydrocore is amazing. I love that. We actually wrote a program for Hydrocore. We just never got it produced. There are 35 programs in production right now. So we're prioritizing right now Indian Club Edition for intro to kettlebell athletes because it will help fix a lot of issues, back pain, wrist, shoulders, all these other things. Action Hero abs, because it's been all shot for like 2 months now. So now we just have to assemble it. 4 bodyweight programs. BJJ Program 3 that we just shot with Will Safford of Order in Progress. BJJ Kettlebell 1. Kettlebell snatch and kettlebell squat. Those are the ones we're trying to get done in the next 6 months. We just got 2 new editors to help us get these things out, but I have not gotten to do the Hydrocore program yet, although I love Maurizio, the guy who invented Hydrocore, Italian guy, absolutely fantastic, incredible athlete. Used to be a professional windsurfer. Hydrocore is probably my favorite innovative piece of kit that there is, because talk about solving a problem. A swingable weight that deflates and goes in a carry-on bag. I think Hydrocore is a genius invention. I'm very upset that, I didn't think of something that cool, because it's really cool. If I only had access to one, would I recommend a club or a mace? I recommend club. I will always recommend club over mace. Mace is club's sexy sister, as I like to think of it. Ryan, will you grab me, is there a Badlands? Will you grab me the Moria mace? The one with the big flange head on it? Where's that one at? Is it over there? The flange head, the murder killer, the Sauron club? Sauron mace? That one. Yeah. So mace is infinite complexity. So I like to use mace. This is the Badland Outfitters. What did he call this one? This is the Sauron Moria one. It's based on Sauron's club from Lord of the Rings, because we are that nerdy. But club is easier to do right. So kettlebells, curve linear, weight swinging endurance, right? Building up towards 30-minute sets. Club means you can extend your arm straight and do a single arm circle with 4 to 5 inches of clearance above your feet. It's very easy to do it right. The problem with maces is that people can build in injury and do them wrong because they hike their elbow when they swing laterally. When they do their inside circle and their outside circle, they hike their elbow to not crush their feet. And that removes the constant elbow traction. So I will always pick club over mace. I will always teach club over mace, because if you can do club, you can do mace. It does not go the other way. Just because you can do mace does not mean you can do club. So the lateral weight swinging, the thing that separates clubs, the thing that separates it from everything else on the planet, and the thing that provides the most benefit is done best with a club. So I will always, always, always pick a club over a mace. Although I do have 50 maces. I love maces as well. And you should do all of it. But if you could only have one, have a club. Here's a question from Jason Heath. When configuring the Adex, When configuring the Adex with spacers, are there times when you would choose to add the weight closer to the base as opposed to out here away from the handle? Really asking about how to skillfully leverage torque. I always put the weight furthest. Sorry, I got something in front of my face. I'm not talking to the mic. I always put the weight furthest away from my hand, always. So I am always using, this one is set up for 4 right now. I usually use 4 plus a 2.5 length because I'm taller. When I straighten out my arm and the weight goes in hang, I am looking for that much space between the club and the top of my foot. The great thing about the Adex is you can size them for smaller athletes, whereas other styles of clubs that are fixed, you cannot. They are one type of thing. Hey, ballet, we're doing live. Okay, there she goes. I'm walking better. You're walking, you're not gimping. You're not limping. Okay. We're already fixing her. She's not limping. That's good. What are your numbers today? 9 sets? 10 sets? 9. Okay. Here's a comment from Igor. He is commenting on something that I try to talk about a lot. You need to help yourself so that you can help others. This gets into a weird philosophy of life thing where, like, what are you really doing with your life? You should be helping others. In order to be useful to others, you need to be capable of being useful, and that means being in shape and not being in pain. And that is a philosophy question. Like, why are you training? I train so I can help my mother on the farm. You know, I can lift things, I can move things. I've always done that my entire life, and that's why fitness should be designed the way it is. You are not just fit. Being fit should not just be about personal ego. It should be about making sure that you are of use to the world. If you are in chronic pain and you can't do things, you are less useful. It's not that you are not useful, it's that you are less useful than you could be. We should always be trying to be more useful. That means we should always be trying to find something positive to do and do something about it. And that means we should be fit. So fitness we're looking at this really from the yogic perspective. Always yoke the mind, yoke the body to yoke the mind to yoke the spirit, so that you can become a useful individual and try to make the world a better place. So thank you, Igor, for commenting on that. That is something we try to talk about a lot. I don't know how much of it I actually talk about on YouTube, but it is a philosophy that I try to get across to people. The goal is to be useful, more useful every day, forever. Here's a question from Pavel Karadzov. What program should I choose for kettlebell training? Pavel is new to kettlebells and has been training for about 2 months, but mostly improvising from the YouTube channel. The point of the YouTube channel is I want to dump as much good information out there as possible, because that's what I wanted when I was a poor kid living on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. Granted, YouTube didn't exist then and information was super hard to come by, but I would have really liked had somebody just organized a bunch of information for free and shoved it out into the world. So you'll notice our kettlebell videos are like ordered, but because you should be able to watch them in order and actually learn everything you need to know about kettlebells. If you're doing a program, if you are generally healthy and fit individual, I would tell you to start with the swing program. Competition adjustable kettlebell. I think there are 41 weight increments inside the Wildman kettlebell as opposed to 19 half K jumps. Think you should run a swing program with at least 10 weights. If you get through 10 weights, you know what you're doing. And then clean and press program. Running swings and clean and press together tends to give people the most overall bang for their buck and fastest development in the least amount of time. Training is an engineering equation. A swing is a deadlift analog. Doesn't matter what sport you play, doesn't matter what type of fitness you practice, there is some type of deadlift in there because deadlifting is a basic human skill. If you work on a farm, you deadlift, but you bear squat deadlift. It's somewhere in between. Tons of stuff all the time. So your fitness program is almost always based on some type of hip snap exercise. Deadlift is a hip snap. The reason I like kettlebells is you can do it in a field, you can do it in a barn, and there's more work capacity in it than in deadlift. Deadlift, specialized equipment, pure strength, 3 to 5 minute sets, five work sets, 5 sets of 5 work sets, or 3 sets of 3 work sets. Kettlebells, every minute on the minute, 10 minutes, building up to hundreds of reps in an amount of time, works on your work capacity, your ability to do real useful work. If you ever work on a farm or you've been a carpenter or worked in a shop, you'll notice that is very important. Short workouts that have the most benefit in the least amount of time. Swings will forever be the most beneficial program in the least amount of time. Any athlete who comes through my door, they start with kettlebell swings and they run straight through. When I worked on movies with actors, the day they walked in, the first day you got them, the first thing you started working on was kettlebell swings. And then they ran swings twice a week for 9 months until the end of the movie. I've been on movies where you had, 3 months of prep time beforehand, where you're working on skills, you're working on fitness, working on riding, working on sword fighting, working on doing that stuff in armor. So your swings need to get above the weight of the armor that you're going to have to wear. And then you run that swing program the entire time. If you drop everything else, you keep swings and single arm club, and people will still turn into monsters very quickly. Swing program, then clean and press program, then Turkish get up program, then deck squats. Usually I used to put deck squats right at the beginning. If I'm training somebody in person, then deck squats go on day 2, swings day 1, deck squats day 2. But if you're training remotely, without supervision, we put deck squats later in training. But swings, then clean and press. Most bang for your buck. Hammer through it. Get your swing program to 32K minimum. Get your clean and press program to 32K minimum. Here's a question about training for overweight and deconditioned individuals. They are currently doing the program. This athlete, HST 1001, is using a multi-level aerobic step for the suitcase lift and squats. At the end of the cycle, do you increase the rate and shorten the step? This is an interesting question. My goal is to get the step shorter and shorter and shorter. So this depends on how you feel. This is subjective because you're training remotely. You have to be in charge of that concept. I would like you to be able to add a little bit of weight, smallest weight increment that you will survive, right? And I would like you to go lower. I would like the suitcase deadlift to get all the way down to the ground. That is less important than lowering the squat. In that program, we are doing a box squat. That means you squat to a target, and then we're trying to get feet up off of the ground for a brief second to force core engagement. We want that target of that squat to be 6 inches eventually lower than the lowest seat in your house. Whatever the seat is in your house, that's the lowest. I want you to measure 6 inches down from that. That is the target height of the box for training for overweight and deconditioned individuals. We want the lower the squat, holding a weight in front will force core engagement. The goal is to make sure that people who are coming back from deconditioned and injured, their core is firing well below the line that they need it to. It's a safety valve. That's why eventually it turns into deck squats where you squat, roll on the ground, and come up, because if you do any type of really stupid sport like circus or motorcycles or horseback riding, you know that you will fall. You know that your core needs to engage at the bottom of a squat in order to save your life. So Do you lower the target and increase the weight? That's a question for you. You're changing two variables at a time. That's up to you. I would encourage you to try to get your squat depth lower. If you have to keep the weight the same to go lower, I would prefer you do that. This is a question about remote training. Heavier weights force more core engagement. It's actually easier sometimes if you go up in weight to do it more correctly. I would like the height of the box to be 6 inches lower than the height of the lowest seat in your house. That's the goal. And then if you need to alter the weight on the next cycle, alter the weight on the next cycle. Adam Lucas, career question. This is a good one. This is a bit out of topic, but what advice would I have for a 20-year-old who's looking to get into the health, fitness-based career? I would tell you to do all of my programs. I know that I would tell you to learn swings, learn clean and press, and learn how to do the progression. The best thing. I was a trainer before I learned kettlebells. Kettlebells provide the absolute most benefit if you're a trainer to a client in the least amount of time. There is no better solution. I have never found one. There is nothing better than teaching a kettlebell deadlift into a kettlebell start-stop swing, into a swing, and then doing a planned program twice a week forever. If your goal is to get into health and fitness and become a trainer, your job is to ensure that you are actually providing the results and a trackable, visible plan that people can understand. I love bodybuilding, but bodybuilding can be oftentimes very ephemeral. I'm not saying, I'm using the wrong word. When it comes to coaching, it's very subjective. If you want to be successful in health and fitness, you need to have numbers. You need to be able to prove that you have done your job well. This is not how it's done in the fitness world. I worked at 24-Hour Fitness when I first started training in Hollywood, the one right next to the ArcLight. And training was bad. Training was really bad. National Academy of Sports Medicine, you kind of track stuff, but there is no real data tracking. And almost normal trainers are not tracking anything, which is to me absolutely horrifying, because I consider it to be fundamentally dishonest to take somebody's money and then to tell them that you're going to help them, but not be able to prove that you have helped them. Engineer, you should be able to prove what you're talking about. That means tracking data. That means having a clear and concise plan for a year, every step for a year. If you want to be a good trainer, you need to become some type of good certified trainer. We are running certifications now because, frankly, I'm generally horrified by the level of coaching in modern fitness. But you need to know the programs inside and out. The reason I write these programs is because these are the pieces that I use to train actors for movies. Swing program, clean and press program. When the producer on a $200 million movie calls you and says, "What are you doing with my actor?" You say, "He is 332% better at this thing than when you gave him to me 7 months ago. Here is the number, every workout he's ever done, trackable in a graph." If his shirtless scene, so if anybody saw Deadpool and Wolverine, you saw the shirtless scene with Hugh Jackman, and Hugh Jackman did an interview on that where they work out insanely. You already have to be in shape. And then you go into movie prep training where you're really doing the physique stuff. And then at the end, they're dehydrating, right? But that scene is on a very specific day, and everybody knows about it months in advance, because getting an actor to that point is very difficult. Creating that is a difficult thing, because those days it's not a bodybuilding show. It is a 14-hour, highly rigorous shooting day. It is in itself a murderous slogging event. Any movie is a murderous slogging event, right? Working 14 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week for 9 months is brutal. And so keeping somebody in shape for that. But if you're going to get into health and fitness, tracking, you have to be able to prove what you are doing. You should know swing program inside and out, blindfolded, backwards, forwards, upside down. You should know how to modify it for every age group, every weight, then clean and press, then Turkish get up. Two-handed club program. Once again, it's impossible not to be able to prove that people are getting better. If they start with a 10-pound weight and they do 200 reps per workout, 10 times 200, 2,000. When they get to a 20-pound weight and they still have 200 reps, it is now 4,000. They have doubled the amount of work capacity that they have, and it is provable. I am obsessed with this because I saw how poorly the lack of data tracking in fitness really annoyed the shit out of me. That's why I created all this stuff. If you want to be a trainer, you should know how to prove that you are doing your job well. I wrote 10 programs. Use those. They're Lego pieces. Put them in. That's how you do it. Oftentimes, if you're going to go into the world of training, get a job at a shitty big box gym for 2 years. Because that's where you practice. You have to practice talking. Coaching is not easy. Coaching is a fine art of getting people to do things that they don't really want to do in a really uncomfortable way, right? In order for people to develop, they have to be uncomfortable. You need to work on your coaching ability to do that. The easiest place to do that is to do it at a big box gym. They'll have a bunch of weird rules about things you do, but they will generally feed you people so that you can practice talking to people, understanding what they need. And then you get basically a test bed. You get a testing facility of your own so that you can work on how you can make your job, make what you're doing better. So anybody who's going into the health and fitness industry, I tell them to go get a job at a big box gym for 2 years minimum, 5-6 days a week. Your goal is to see 30 clients a week, which is really hard to do mentally. 30 clients a week is brutal for a trainer. And then make sure that you understand these things. How can you prove it? How are you tracking your data? I will talk about this stuff forever. Start doing seminars now. Doesn't have to be my seminars, but you need to go to 2 seminars a year forever, right? You do not know it all. If anybody who thinks they know it all, anybody who thinks that they know everything, you don't want that person as a coach at all. If your coach is not actively seeking coaching, you have the wrong coach. So yeah, come to seminars, learn kettlebells, learn clubs, learn to track data 100%. Go to big box gym and do 2 seminars a year forever. You're never done. You don't get to quit. Question, Smudge173. Interesting name. Would you consider making an extreme low equipment travel series, perhaps with resistance bands? I would. Yeah, I'm not big on resistance bands. Getups. Get up programs. Man, we wrote a super sick version of a get up program last year that never came out, never got beyond testing phase because it just fell off of the shooting. But the goal is to have 6 bodyweight programs out with 3 different timing formats for each one. There's your perfect travel program. It requires absolutely nothing except your phone, which you definitely have. So maybe when we finish the edit on these next 4 bodyweight programs, we will release it as a travel package. It could be a good idea. Yeah. I have all kinds of great travel training ideas. And Action Hero abs. Action Hero abs. Well, Action Hero abs. Have I explained what Action Hero abs is to anybody? Okay. So we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of this. Action Hero abs was designed for stunt guys to do in their trailer, but it's going to be a drop-in Tetris piece on any program that you do. Running from 5 minutes to 10 minutes, and then eventually with waves up to 20 minutes for like movie prep. But it's meant to be just be a drop-in as well, so that it requires nothing, so that you can actually do it when traveling. This is a question, Chris King. What is VMO? Think of the teardrop muscle above your kneecap. That is the VMO that we're talking about. You'll hear people talk about VMO all the time because we talk about it a lot in rehab. So VMO is a muscle. It's one of the muscles in the front of the leg above the knee on the lateral medial side, medial front. I'm losing my descriptive terms properly here. Randall Davis of Red Forest Chinese Boxing. I'm always talking to Randall Davis online. I think we message each other every day because we're both Kung Fu nerds and we're constantly talking about Kung Fu. Randall Davis, Red Forest Chinese Boxing, has a podcast. If you're super into nerd martial arts concepts, this is the podcast for you. He's asking any favorite people or systems for breathing practice. There are all types of breathing practices that you go through over the course of training, and breathing is one of the fundamental things that is not talked about a lot in training, but is incredibly important. We talk about it ancillarily. There are 5 levels of breathing: force level breathing at the bottom, master flow level breathing at the top. Think powerlifting, lift super heavy weights, inhale, brace your core, and then breathing changes. And then you have ballerinas at the top. Ballerina breathing. You've never seen a ballerina breathe. That's because she is being breathed by the movement. It is the height of athletic breathing. When you study martial arts, they almost all come with some specific form of breathing. Hungar famously had 12 different types of exhales, which contracted the muscles inside the body and around the lungs in different ways. That I thought was an interesting form of breathing, but far too complicated. I liked Jingyi style breathing, which was expansion and contraction of the rib cage. Side effect, if you do single arm club, you're doing all of it anyway. You're just doing it without all the fancy Chinese poetry word names. You think you have like Buddhist breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then you have, is Taoist breathing the opposite of that? Taoist breathing in through the mouth, out through the nose. I like currently to try to do only nasal breathing. And every time you do a single arm club program, every time you swing a weight, you will notice in the beginning, you're breathing twice. As you get better at it, your breathing will change. As you get more efficient and you learn to endure better, you will breathe at different parts of the movement. I am focusing on just nasal breathing now. I used to do Shaolin breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth all the time. But after I got hit in the face with an axe on a movie and broke a tooth and got a massive infection in my skull, I'm now focusing. I realized I wasn't breathing enough through this side of my head, right? This is how nerdy you get when you've been doing this for 30 years. So I am going back and trying to go down in weight. I'm going to 30 pounds, which is my light single arm club weight, keeping my mouth closed or mouth taping and trying to focus on nasal breathing the entire time. So my favorite form of breathing is heavy club breathing. What's your time frame, Ballet? Yeah. Okay. Let's do 2 more questions, and then I'm going to train the ballerina. Club exercise. This is a question from John McCann. This is an interesting question. The current exercises seem to not activate the chest as much as they activate core, legs, lats, shoulders. Is there a good club exercise that targets chest? Honestly, no. Chest is a stabilizing muscle. If you want to do a bunch of chest, then it is ground engagement. So club swinging is perfect exercise for human beings. We have thumbs for a reason. Our wrist, our elbow, our shoulder, our core, our ankles, our hips, our knees, our breathing are all optimized around using and swinging levers. Chest, having a very well-developed chest is not something that you see in like ancient Greek sculpture. You see really strong shoulders, huge lats, massive glutes, big calves, and forearms the size of the upper arm. There are a specific series of measurements that create a Greek ideal, right? And chest is not part of the Greek ideal. Chest is part of the modern ideal because chest is really a stabilizing muscle. Chest is a stabilizing muscle in a kettlebell snatch. It is a stabilizing muscle in a mill. You get chest development because the muscle is always on because it's always stabilizing, but you're not going to get an Arnold Schwarzenegger chest with any club exercise. It doesn't really exist. The same way kettlebellers are using chest, not in a front plane, they're doing overhead press. So you'll notice competition kettlebell guys also have smaller chests, but massive lats, right? If you want to work on developing your chest, you have the natural strategy, which is based on push-ups, burpees, and get-ups, right? A burpee as a get-up, but we say it push-ups, burpees, and get-ups because people understand burpees as their own thing. And dips. Their best chest exercise is dips, bar none. For a natural physique, if you're looking for a Schwarzenegger physique, then you are going to go outside of the world of clubs, which is super awesome. And we can totally talk about that. If you wanted to build a superhero body in the least amount of time, it would be like kettlebell swings and clean and press. And then it would be two-handed heavy club swinging, working on getting way up in weight, fill you out, give you the real Greek physique. And then the movie muscle, the add-on, would be 60 minutes of chest. It could be every 3 minutes on 3 minutes, you do a set of chest. That would be 5 sets of incline 45-degree dumbbell or kettlebell chest press, and 5 sets of 30-degree dips, and then like cable Wolverines would be chest muscle exercise. Chest is really a stabilizing muscle. So if you watch the Olympics, you'll notice there's not a bunch of super well-developed chests outside of the world of Olympic rings. Olympic rings guys, obviously massively ripped chest and shoulders. But for the most part, there are no great exercises with clubs that target specifically the chest. Every exercise in club swinging is a hard gainer exercise. If you're in the world of training a long time, you hear about hard gainer programs. A hard gainer program is deadlifts, squats, and presses. There's no way out. Every exercise, it's called a hard gainer program because it taxes the entire body. So the whole body develops equally. Every heavy club program is a hard gainer program, but then if you wanted chest, you would add it as a separate section. You would do your 30-minute club program, 32 minutes basis of strength, and then you would do 30 minutes of chest, which is really easy. Feels like a super break after you do something like heavy clubs. But there are no really good chest exercises with clubs. There are people who say that there are. I've never seen a really good chest exercise. They're always doing something outside of heavy clubs. What are my thoughts on TRX? TRX, if you are not familiar, TRX is something that was originally, I believe, invented by military guys. It was nylon straps that they could hook over the doors of their Humvees to do a bunch of rows and different types of push-ups and things like that. I think TRX is fine. I don't do it. I don't see it as being useful enough for the way I do things. I have rings back here. I have not been doing rings for years. They're back here because I stare at them every day and I think about what I should do. We are going to put up a ring training system in here. We just haven't gotten around to it yet because the forklift broke. But I think TRX just do rings. TRX is the more portable version of rings. Rings are hard because they're big wooden circles. You got to drag them around. TRX goes in a small bag. Is it good? Yes. Do I care about it? I don't really care about it. I would just do get up programs, burpee programs, those kinds of things. TRX is, once again, it's not the right philosophy, I don't think. I think you should be looking for global, complete movements that are useful in the real world. So get-ups. I pick get-ups that I specifically see in martial arts. So I could do TRX for 30 minutes, or I could practice getting up off of the ground exactly as you need to be able to do it for 30 minutes. There are no true movement patterns in TRX. They're all an adaptation of a gym exercise, which are not real movements. Real being, I can point to a Krav get up in a movie, in a fight scene, in Krav Maga. I go, that is that exact movement. You should spend your time doing useful things, not things that have ill-defined use. I don't know what the movements in TRX, it's hard. Yes, it's hard. Great. I don't know what the movements are for. So I don't do things if I can't specifically point to something in the real world and say that is why we're training. Kevin Orr, thanks to a life of rugby and BJJ, he has many rib injuries that never heal. He needs magic. You need single arm clubs. My buddy Dave Jenkins of Sports Therapy Scotland worked with Scotland Rugby for years. He did Indian club, and then I taught him heavy club when we were on a movie in Scotland, and he said that it's the greatest thing for rugby players can do. Single arm club, two-handed club. Single arm club will do the rib injuries. Because of the expansion and contraction of the rib cage, it rebalances the muscles in between the ribs. What's going on here? Here's a question from Keith T. Why would you purchase my kettlebells over the Bells of Steel's adjustable kettlebells? They're the same bells. Mine has my name on it, and I'm the one who put the extra weights inside of all of the kettlebells. So adjustable kettlebells had 19 weights. I decided to solve a problem, and I convinced Bells of Steel, a very, very good company, that they needed to add more weight increments into it. Buy mine, buy theirs. You're still getting the same product. You're still getting the 41 weight idea that I worked on. I wanted more weights so that people who were injured had more steps in order to recover. You buy whatever bell you want. K. Ross. K. Ross was doing the series for overweight people. Is that the YouTube series, not the TOI program? But couldn't continue because it would take me more than 1 hour to complete the workouts. Yeah. So the training idea, I made the original training series YouTube videos, and then I refined it into an actual program design, TOI, training for overweight and deconditioned individuals, where we did a ton of math to optimize the learning pattern. You can do all this stuff from YouTube, but we do make everything better over time because I am an engineer. I optimize and I make things better. The goal is to get people the best results in the least amount of time. So, yeah, you have to keep watching videos and learn to program. If you're not going to do one of my programs, you have to learn to program yourself. And there are 100 videos on my YouTube about doing that. Your workouts eventually should be, 30 minutes is something that people can really do 5 days a week. But then they have 10 to 20 minutes of warm up, 10 to 20 minutes of cool down. K. Ross, try one of the other programs and start working on other things. Do all the free stuff. There are 20 videos on programming as well, but we have optimized all of those things to be better over time. Here's a question from James Lincoln. Seminar question. He is confirming that I changed the staff seminar from November 1 to 2 to October 19 to 20. Yes, I did change that because I realized nobody was going to show up because it's Halloween. So we did move it. We moved it earlier. There are now 3 seminars in October, first weekend, second weekend, third weekend. Is that staff club or is it pure staff? I thought it was pure staff. I like the pure staff ones because they're insane. Is it staff club? Okay. All right, guys. We're going to wrap this up today. If anybody has one final question, the important thing is that we're always trying to get better. We're optimizing things. Programs are coming out. We're writing programs specifically to solve problems that we see. We don't write random programs. We don't put weird names on them. They all should be, everything you do should be useful and trackable forever. I'm just too old to do useless stuff or stuff without a point. I've been too injured and I've spent way too much time down from trying to do training that didn't make any sense. The goal is to make everything better all the time. We can always optimize outcomes and engineer better solutions over time. So that's what we're going to try to do. It's good. Thank you, everybody, for coming and asking questions. As you ask questions, it helps me refine my ability to explain the answer. If I have the information, but I cannot clearly articulate it, it is useless. The goal is to be more useful. So every time I do one of these, it helps me make sure that I am explaining how and why we do things. And it should get better all the time. So thank you very much for helping me get better at my communication. And let me find that ballerina and get started on her program.